The main character of the film, yesterday's high school graduate, Tessa Yang, is preparing to move on to a new phase of her life, college. Together with her strict mother Carol and modest boyfriend Noah Porter, the girl leaves home to go to college. The trio tries to find the freshman's room, and when they finally open the coveted door, they find two girls behind it. Tessa meets her new roommate extraordinaire Steph and her girlfriend, Tristan. Jones admits to the new girl that at first she didn't like the idea of sharing space with a freshman, but then realized it had its perks, like mentoring. Tristan adds that they will take Tessa to all the best places not available to freshmen. Carol is horrified by this behavior, so she asks her daughter to change rooms, wishing to shield her from her neighbor's destructive influence. The sensible girl reassures her mother, persuading her not to make a scene and to trust the girl. With a heavy heart, the woman allows Tessa to be independent and, after a brief goodbye, leaves with Porter. She returns to her room, where she gossips with Steph about Noah, the high school boy she mistook for her freshman brother, and, after Jones leaves, she begins unpacking her favorite books. Waking up the next morning, Tessa rushes excitedly to her first basic economics lecture, but outside the locked classroom she finds no one but a boy named Landon. The young people immediately find common ground, discovering that despite their different majors, they have a lot to discuss. After a stressful day at school, girl goes to take a bath, only to find that her clothes are soaking wet. With only a towel on, Yang returns to her room, where she suddenly sees a stranger lounging on Steph's bed, reading a book. Tessa assumes he is at the wrong door and politely asks him to step out into the hallway, but he ignores her. The brute turns out to be a close friend of her roommate, who, as soon as she enters the room, suggests that Tessa join them at a party. Yang tactfully declines, after which the stranger sneers, saying that the freshman is not much of a party girl. Before he leaves, Yang gives Tessa the Great Gatsby, telling her that the whole story was a dream, but her companion corrects him by saying that the story was a lie. The next day, Tessa meets a stranger again in a cafe on the university campus and briefly crosses paths with him. Yang plans to spend the evening in the library, but Steph's sudden appearance ruins her plans by inviting her roommate to a party. After packing up, the girls head to the fraternity house, where they find Tristan. Later, Steph decides to introduce the modest Tessa to her badass friends Zed Evans and Jace, as well as Molly Samuels and Hardin Scott. Zed inquires about Tessa's specialty, after which Jace offers Tessa a drink. She refuses at first, but takes a sip after Molly teases her. Then the group decides to play the game Truth or Dare. When Yang falls for the truth, Molly embarrasses Tessa by revealing that she has not been physically intimate. However, Tessa decides not to fall for the provocation and exchanges truth for action, getting the assignment to make out with our dean. Girl leaves the noisy students, declaring that she does not intend to play their games, thereby rejecting Scott. Molly films the whole thing on her phone. Wanting to distract herself, Tessa calls Noah, who, upon discovering that his sweetheart is drinking alcohol and partying instead of studying, begins to lecture her. Yang discharges the call and returns to the house. The freshman finds a large library in a second-floor room that catches her eye. She picks up Wuthering Heights with numerous notes between the pages, but is distracted by Horden, who has arrived. Seeing that the girl is holding a novel by Bronte, Scott quotes a few lines from the work, then asks what Tessa is doing in his room. Horden intercepts her gaze and reminds her that the game is not yet over. The young man leans closer to kiss Yang, who echoes Scott, but pulls away at the last moment, saying she cannot do so, and leaves the party. On her way back to her dorm, she checks messages from Noah, in which the guy advises her to stop communicating with Steph and her friends, saying that he only wants the best for Tessa. The next morning girl has an English lecture on her schedule. She tries to find an empty seat in the class and is displeased to see Zed and Molly among the students. Tessa makes her way to the front rows, where she sees Landon and joins him. A tardy Hardin enters the room and sits next to Yang as Professor Soto asks the students to comment on Pride and Prejudice. The professor chooses Hardin as his victim. Scott, with his usual directness, bluntly replies that the protagonist, Elizabeth Bennet, was too annoying and caused Mr. Darcy, the object of his affection, a lot of trouble, even though the man did not deserve it. The student believes that there is no such thing as love. There is only a set of desirable traits that one person transfers to another. The guy's theory that feelings can be turned on and off really enrages Tessa. She immediately confronts Scott. The characters engage in an overt confrontation, weaving the facts of the novel with the events of the previous evening. Professor Soto ends the argument. Hardin looks pleased with himself, but intrigued by Tessa's persistence. After class, the boy follows the heroine out of the building, exclaiming that what happened was amusing and fascinating. Yang, feeling remorse for nearly cheating on Noah, stops the guy and tells him there is nothing between them. Scott pretends not to understand what it is about and immediately leaves. Tessa expresses her irritation at Jardine's arrogant and condescending behavior when Landon joins the girl. Gibson merely shrugs his shoulders, saying that provocation is in Scott's vein. Landon confesses that he knows a lot about our Dean because of the forced bonds that unite them. Gibson's mother and Scott's father have been in a relationship for a long time, but in spite of this, their sons do not get along with each other. In the evening, Tessa accompanies Steph to a session at a tattoo parlor. While Jace beats Jones to the skin, Yang confesses to her neighbor that she wouldn't risk doing something like this because of her strict mother. Sometimes she feels as if Carol has her whole life planned out. The buddies sympathize with the hopelessness and predestination that go hand in hand with Yang's life. Later, while watching Steph and Tristan in love, Tessa feels lonely. In the morning, Tessa meets Howard Dean, who invites her to forget the past and start afresh by becoming friends. She hesitates for a while but then agrees. They drive to a wooded area with Scott's favorite lake. Of course, a moment later the couple is in the water. They are having fun and learning some details about each other. While they are swimming, Hardin kisses Tessa, saying that they cannot remain only friends. The characters then head to a local diner where Tessa tries to learn more about Hardin, but he refuses to answer questions about the past, offering to talk about the present. When Yang asks why the guy has so many romance novels on the shelves if he doesn't believe in love, he smirks and replies that the freshman shouldn't believe everything he says. Their conversation is interrupted by the appearance of Molly and Zed, which makes Scott visibly tense. Samuel suddenly asks Yang about Noah, but Howard Dean prevents the girl from answering, asking Tessa to leave her friends alone for a while. Later, the heroine promises Hardin that she will tell Porter about their kiss, but the guy tells her, aloof, that he is not dating anyone and that their pastime was just a pleasant diversion. Upset, Tessa leaves the diner alone. Noah soon surprises Yang by coming to campus, and in the evening she takes her boyfriend to a campfire party. In the midst of a game of passing the card to the person next to her with her lips, Jace deliberately fails to kiss Tessa, arousing jealousy in Howard Dean. The evening ends in a fight. At night, Landon calls a friend and asks her to come to him urgently. Tessa leaves Noah asleep in the room to discover the terrible mess in the Scott house, which Horton has made in a drunken rage after learning that his father is getting remarried. The girl comforts him and, as a result, the young people spend the night together. In the morning, Tessa returns to Noah, who suspects that she has been unfaithful to Howard Dean and breaks off relations with her. For the next few days, Yang avoids and ignores everyone, trying to recover, but one day she comes to Scott, to whom she confesses that she will never forgive herself for treating Porter, who has always been her best friend. Tessa and Hardin begin dating, which Carol soon discovers. She threatens to deprive her daughter of her financial security if she continues her relationship with Hardin. The girl refuses to obey her mother, and she leaves, warning her daughter that Scott will break her heart. Then Hardin finds an apartment and asks his beloved to move in with him. She agrees, of course, and their whole life becomes like a book novel. After a while, the wedding of Hardin's father, Coyne, takes place. At the reception, the boy can barely keep his hands off of himself and cannot bear to see the perfect picture his parents have painted of him. The hero says that he cannot forgive his father for his alcoholism in the past, as a result of which Haddon's mother has suffered. After the celebration, the heroes in love return to their apartment and make love for the first time. Soon, in Hardin's phone, Tessa accidentally notices a strange text message from Molly, questioning about some secret. When she tries to ask her boyfriend for the meaning of the messages, he just asks her to trust him and leaves. The stubborn Yang follows Scott to the diner, where she finds him with Molly, Zed, Steph, and Jace. Samuels brutally reveals Hardin's true intention when he shows Tessa the video from the first party. Scott argues with his friends that he will fall in love with a rebellious girl and then break her heart. Howard Dean desperately tries to convince the stunned heroine that his intentions have changed when he gets to know her better, but Tessa does not believe him and ends their deceitful relationship. Grief-stricken, Yang returns to her hometown to apologize to and reconcile with Carol and Noah, then interviews for an internship at Vance Publishing to leave college. Before summer vacation, Tessa's lecturer, Professor Soto, presents her with an essay written by Howard Dean in which he confesses his love for Tessa. After reading it, girl returns to the lake to meet her lover. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the recap, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I look forward to your reactions in the comments below.